Well, hello guys to the Amaz's top TGT cards review that's pre-release. So all the cards are released. I sat down and actually looked at a couple of cards, and I'm gonna rate them in a couple of top 5 lists. Yes. So let's begin. By whoops. Let's do constructed with top 5 neutrals. So neutral cards, there's only a couple. There's not a lot, but we're gonna see what I rate as a top 5. So the first one, I think, number 5, because it goes in reverse order, of course. I think it's gonna be Edith's Darkbane, because this is actually gonna be found in 2 decks, I think, right? Mech Mage with all the spare parts, and also like Aggro Paladin with the new buff cards that also target stuff, right? You have Blessed of Might, you have Blessed of Kings, you have the +3 attack and the Divine Shield. I think, what's that called? That's called a weird champion thing or something like that. Yeah, she's gonna be really powerful because she's basically like triple knife juggler in a sense. You do have to buff her. That's the downside because usually you want to put a lot of small dudes, but 3 damage when you hit something with this guy or this girl. It's I have to move face cam. It's fine. I'll just move this left side a bit. But if you there we go. Yeah, if it hits a minion, it's probably dead early game in turn 3. And if you hit the face, you're not that sad, right? This is probably not gonna see a much constructed play. Like control play, because the fact that it could hit the face means that you need to maximize the value of the face as well. So this, it doesn't matter what it hits. It's gonna be awesome. All right, good. Next card, I think it's number 4. It's gonna be pretty good in top 5 neutrals list. Is the Grand Crusader. Why is that? It's because it's the only 6 mana card that draws you a card right now, and Paladin cards averagely are actually pretty good. Sure, sometimes you get something that's really bad, you know, like Eye for an Eye or something like that, but the majority of Paladin class cards are really, really strong, right? You have a chance for a 4-drop, you have a chance for weapons, you have a chance for Outdoor Peacekeeper. The bulk of the Paladin cards are just meant to be good, you know. So this is gonna be pretty strong. We have top number 3 coming in at Chillmaw. Man, Dragon decks really are lacking something, and a 7 mana drop that actually deals 3 damage to everything is actually quite strong. Deals with Patron quite well. If Patron's not gonna get nerfed, we're not really sure. Deals with Quartermaster quite well, and it's just a big taunt minion, right? It's a 6/6 taunt minion. It's overall pretty good. I think it'll be found in Control Warrior the most, just because it deals damage to all minions. You do not really want to, you know, poke your own minion. But then, if you're running a Dragon deck, you're pretty much running, like, big stuff. You know, like, semi-big creatures and not a lot of small tokens and whatnot. So, this effect is bound to only help you out. And of course, against aggro decks like, you know, aggro Paladin, against Hunter, these are really strong. The 6 body is also relevant in mid-range matchups, such as like Druid, and you know, it's overall the 3 is actually like really good. We know that Hellfire is such a premium removal, and then you know, Consecrate just doesn't quite do it. So 3 damage is very relevant. Oh man, coming in number 2. I always say top, it's kind of weird, but the number 2 card in the neutral set, in my opinion, is Argent Horse Rider. Wow, this is insanity. Like, how is this so good? Well, because if you compare it to a Wolf Rider, this loses 1 attack for Divine Shield, which is absolutely nuts. I would definitely pay 1 damage for a card that is much more stickier, right? And not to mention that this could go face in a Face Hunter deck, because, well, Face Hunters really just want to go face with Wolf Rider, right? And obviously charge minis go best with the face. This can also deal with like Knife Juggler really well. And it's just really good, right? Deal 2 damage, summon a 2/1. It's definitely worth 3 mana, and if you go face with it, it's also very versatile. Definitely think this might replace Wolf Rider or become like, you can play 2 of these and a Wolf Rider and some Arcane Golems. I'm not really sure, but like this card is overall really strong. Yeah, this is probably gonna see play in Face Hunter. Maybe see play in some other mid-range decks, because, you know, it does have the Divine Shield charge where you can basically summon a 2/1 and deal 2 damage. But obviously more proficient in face decks. So yes. And finally, number 1 card is gonna be Twilight Guardian for neutrals. 4 mana, 3/6 taunt. That is water elemental status, and if you play a dragon deck, this is gonna happen quite a bit. 6 health is very, very strong because like there's a lot of cards that are kind of like 4 attack, right? We know that there's like, you know, Shredder basically is the really only the one that pops in mind. There's a couple more, I guess. You know, you have Druid Claw, you have Houndmaster. A lot of 4 attack minions can't kill this because usually what happens is you play a Senjin Shieldmaster. Okay, they attack with the Shredder. And then they ping it down, they hero power, you know, they lights justice or whatever. So like 5 is actually pretty weak, but 6 is actually, you know, passes that 5 test, right? Yeah, I think it's gonna be really, really good in Dragon decks. I think it's way better than Twilight Drake. Twilight Drake also suffers the same problem as if you play it in the Dragon deck, usually only gets 5 health, so it's not really doing that much. And it's also not very defensive, right? Twilight Guardian gaining taunt is actually super, super relevant in a lot of... Whoa, what the heck was that? In a lot of Dragon decks right now, people just ignore your dragons and go face. Because why clear your 6 health dragons or like, you know, hungry dragons and whatnot where you can just go face, right? So this is going to be really, really strong. Good. So there you go. Constructed in terms of class cards, there's a lot of class cards that are really good. So I'm gonna get a top 10 list. Okay. So this is 10 to 6 first, and the number 10 card is going to be Burgle. Burgle is a very, very underrated card, and it's gonna be very, very strong. I'm gonna do a little simulation after this. But basically, it's a Thought Steal plus, right? It only steals class cards, which means that it will not whiff. And it's gonna steal some insane cards. Oh my god. Like, it's actually gonna be nuts. How the fact that you can actually prep Burgle this is also insane. Like, how many times when you play Rogue against a certain class, you just run out of cards, right? Because you run out of damage. Especially against like healing classes, against like freeze mage classes, you know, stuff like that. You just run out of steam. And Burgle actually helps you add cards to your deck, right? I always say that Thought Steal is basically the best card in the classic set, right? When there was no Naxxramas or like BRM or stuff like that. Thought Steal was the best card because it draws outside your deck. And now Rogue is getting the same treatment. So basically, anytime you don't want to fizzle out, Burgle is going to be really strong. It's also doubly strong in Rogue because you are going to run preparation. So sometimes you can just prep Burgle SI as your turn, and then next turn you can just, you know, ram a True Silver Champion against the Paladin, and they're gonna be very sad about it, you know. So yeah, that's number 10. Coming in number 9 is actually Dark Bargain. A lot of people think that this card is actually garbage tier. I think this is gonna be really quite the eye opener. We actually first saw this kind of card with Doomguard. When Hearthstone was first released, it actually took people 5 months to figure out that Doomguard is actually an insane card, right? Because at first you see it, oh my god, it's discard 2 cards. Why would I ever want to play this card? And then, you know, Zoo was kind of a deck because, oh, I guess you just ram out your minions as soon as possible. You tap for cards and you just jam out whatever you play as the late game, right? And then you have this card. So like this is basically like a Doomguard, but it's like double Deadly Shot, right? Why this is actually better than a double Deadly Shot is because it occurs in the same turn. There's a lot of times where you want a Deadly Shot, but then your opponent has 2 minions, and you go like, oh, if I Deadly Shot this guy, then I'm not really happy about it. Okay, a good example would be like, you know, something that's Argus, right? Let's just say something normal. It's a kind of a bad example, but a Yeti with an Argus, right? So a 5/6 taunt and a 2/3 2/3 guy. So then you don't want to play Deadly Shot because you might miss, right? But if you play Dark Bargain, you basically clear your opponent's board. How this is also strictly just at random enemy minions, like enemy minions, makes it also stronger. Okay, like the dream is obviously to snipe 2 Molten Giants if you play Zoo, right? So I think this is definitely a one-off. Maybe two of these are a bit too heavy, but it might bring back the early zoo deck back, because all the zoo decks right now are the Void Caller decks, and this might basically push the normal zoo back in action a little bit, because this is actually, quite frankly, a very strong card. Coming in at number 8, Living Roots. It's going to be pretty good. It's going to be found in quite a bit of Druid decks. Sure, this is going to be best in token Druid decks, but like when you put this in like a normal Druid, it's actually quite versatile, right? How many times when you play Druid, you lose the game because you have like 5 cards in your hand? You lose the game because you just can't play your other stuff, right? Like basically deck builders are going to find a way to actually put this in so that the curve is still quite reasonable, and then you actually get to spend your mana. You get what I mean? Like there's a lot of situations where when you Wild Growth into turn, I have no idea, you have 6 mana and you only have 5 drops, right? And you can't play anything else. Druid does suffer a lot of at least the combo Druid right now suffers a lot of problems with, like, when you play a card, you have floating mana and you can usually only play 1 card. You can't weave in anything, right? Like the only card you can weave in is Wrath, and once you use your 2 Wraths, your opponent can go like, oh, you're just gonna play 1 creature every turn, so that's like not really that powerful. So like this is gonna actually squeeze stuff in, and you know, it is a little bit of a relevant thing that you can actually deal 16 damage with the combo now, right? You can actually force an Nature Savage Roar and then just Living Roots the heck out of your opponent for 16 damage. So a little bit more reach as well. So definitely a card that Druid needed, I think. Just a strictly better Arcane Shot or Holy Smite, right? Because you have the second option as well early game against, say, Aggro Hunter or like Aggro Paladin, right? The 2/1/1s are actually pretty relevant against those decks. Okay, number 6 is Effigy, another card for possibly Temple Mage, and this sometimes is better than Mirror Entity, because when you have like when we have minions on your side of the board, and your opponent doesn't play a minion, right? They do not proc Mirror Entity at all, and they use spells instead to remove your minions. You use a True Silver Champion and stuff like that. Effigy actually basically gives a minion Death Rattle, and it gives a minion Death Rattle with Combobulator, right, kind of. This is especially strong when you set this up correctly, okay? So for example, I don't know, you set this up at turn 4 using Mad Scientist, or you're just playing it from your hand, and they play Belcher, right? Duplicate kind of achieves the same thing, where if you set up a duplicate and you play Belcher, you get 2 Belchers, and your opponent is like really sad about it, especially if he's aggro, right? This basically is the same thing, where because you have no other minions, your opponent has no choice but to kill the Belcher, right? Okay, sure, they don't kill the Belcher, what are you gonna play next turn? Emperor. And then you have like a 6 mana card. So then like your opponent doesn't know what to kill, right? Because you're just gonna summon back. The fact that it's basically a Death Rattle spell. And Death Rattle spells are really strong because Death Rattle minions are themselves really, really strong. Very resilient to AoE. This is also resilient to mind control in a sense, because if you mind control a Belcher, the Death Rattle sticks with you or something like that. Very, very strong. Another card for board. And right now, the only secrets mages have for board is Counterspell and Mirror Entity. So it's good to have a third option. Now we can basically juggle. The only problem with this card is that if you have both Mirror Entity and Effigy, your opponent can summon a Zombie Chow for you, and then they can kill your Zombie Chow, and then this procs, and then it summons another Zombie Chow for your opponent, and then your opponent is at 40 health, so that's not really happy times. A little bit of tricky one to deal with this. And of course, against Hex and Polymorph, this card is just horrendous. Coming in at number 6 is Alexstrasza's Champion. First of all, like when I first saw this card, I thought it was just like a bad version of Fire War Axe, right? For example, like why do you want to play this card when you want to play Fire War Axe and remove 2 minions anyways? Obviously, this is really good if you go for face, right? Because once again, charge minions are just really important to go with face, right? 3/3 to go with face. Now, why is this more important? Is because it basically not only does that point where it can go face and gives you a 3/3, and 2 mana 3/3 is pretty insane. It also gives you a body, right? So pretend like your opponent doesn't play anything, which is kind of relevant sometimes, right? You can just like play this out and not do anything about it, which is fine. Obviously, one of the dreams would be like playing this against a 2/3 like a Mech Warper, and then killing it and summon a 3/1. And like 1 health creatures we know in Hearthstone are actually really strong when you when they trade when they trade downwards, right? Obviously, I'm not saying that Magma Rager is OP, right? We're playing a minion, reducing it down to 1 health, and 1 health minions are so annoying because they basically devote like 2 mana, right? How do I put it? Alistra's champion. Kill a Mech Warper and destroy 2 mana for your opponent's next turn because they probably have the ping, right? So like if you treat it that way, that is actually a very strong card. Alright, onwards to the top 5 for class cards. We have Tuskar Totemic as number 5. How it can actually summon a totem that's out of the normal set and just steamroll your opponent is just insane, right? It can summon a Flame Tongue, it can summon a Manatide, it can summon a Totem Golem. Those are actually just nuts. You make sure when you play this, you have to make sure that you play this on the left side because otherwise the Flame Tongue will spawn. Flame Tongue will always spawn on the right side because that's how summon works, right? So you always play this on the left side. You can just run away with games with this. And because you're summoning a 2 mana creature, in a sense, this is a 1 mana 3/2, right? If you're summoning a 3 mana creature like Manatide and Flame Tongue, you can see how it actually blows stuff out of the water. And Totem Golem is a 3 mana creature, right? Oh my god, a 3/2 to summon a 3/4. That is just nuts. So this card is going to definitely be seen play in Shaman decks, although I don't think Shaman is going to be that strong in TGT. This card is pretty good. Number 4 is Varen Rin. Absolutely nuts, right? A super ancient of lore. They also put stuff on the board. A lot of people think that this is actually a bad battle cry because it doesn't activate Shield Maiden's battle cry or Taskmaster. Like, what the heck? What do you care? A 7/7 that summons a 5/5, a 1/4, or like an Armor Smith or like a 2/2 Taskmaster. You're super happy about that, right? This is like single-handedly can just win games, right? And of course, when you draw spells or weapons, they add it to your hand, so they're not like lost or anything. This is just like nuts, I think. You pay 10 mana for this card, and you are expecting a 10 mana return in investment. Any card that is a 7 attack or higher, you have to think about something like BGH, right? Can BGH actually just like wreck this and just like nullify this completely? No, because the battle cry effect happens already. So this is actually very resilient to BGH. Very, very strong card. You can also like it basically Control Warrior can actually take the full advantage of this because if it's a 10 mana creature 7/7 summon a Ysera and then add 2 cards, draw 2 cards, it's like an insane Ancient of Lore. It's just Ancient of Lore plus, right? It's gonna be really strong. Number 3 card is Darnassus Spirit, and why this card is so insane is because it's a creature plus a Wild Growth, okay? Sure, Wild Growth is still better because, you know, you can just wrap up. But when you play this, your opponent basically, if they don't kill it, you basically gain a coin every turn. That's kind of how I put it, right? So if you play this to turn 2, your opponent can't kill it, and you play a Shredder, and then they kill it, you already gained the value of this gaining you an extra mana crystal. Plus, it's a 2/3. Your opponent has to spend something to kill it, which is like quite strong. Quite cute, which is like a mirror entity effect, where if you play this, your opponent's mirror entity, you destroy one of their mana crystals. That's kind of cute, but that's not the main point of this card, right? The main point of this card is that you are actually wrapping in and actually, once again, making the combo druid deck a little bit more consistent. Once again, in combo druid decks right now, if you don't draw Wild Growth and you don't draw Innovate, you are behind. So now, why not play your 3rd Wild Growth or the 4th Wild Growth, you know? Fourth Wild Growth, you know? So like, it's just a matter of balancing the combo druid deck in terms of like, you know, consistency versus value minions. This is going to be really, really strong. Number 2 is the Tuskar Jouster. Oh my god, I cannot imagine the Paladin deck without this card because this is actually the first card with a duality effect, right? Right now, all the cards kind of do what they are intend to do. A duality effect basically means that it's good against aggro, it's good against control. I guess the only other card that does this is like Taskmaster, right? Taskmaster is good against aggro, where you ping off a one health creature, and then against control you can activate executes with Taskmaster. So Taskmaster is kind of like a duality effect. Tuskar Jouster is really strong because, first of all, when you play against an aggro deck, you just want heal, which you just want to heal, right? As a mid-range paladin, and when you joust against an aggro hunter, you pretty much always going to win, right? They only run 1, 2, and 3 drops, right? They stop at Arcane Golem and that's it. Basically, half of your deck actually just wins the joust, and even Zombie Chow. Zombie Chow obviously doesn't win any joust, but like even the 2 drop can actually be the 1 drop. Like it's gonna restore 7 health, which is exactly what you want. On the flip side, against like a mid-range or control deck, you're not gonna take damage early on too relevantly, right? You know, you might take like, I don't know, like maximum of like 10 damage or something. But you actually want a stronger body. And a 5 mana 5/5 is the definition of stronger body. When you play a 5 mana anti-heal bot, you only get a 3/3. And 3/3 just doesn't cut it in a mid-range and control matchup. You really need the big body. And at that point, because you're not taking damage, in that matchup, the health is not really relevant, right? The health is kind of cute when you get it, but like Jesus Christ, like the 5/5 body for 5, it's another Lothep. You're paying Lothep at turn 5, and possibly getting a heal. You compare this card to like Guardian of Kings, and Guardian of Kings is just like, what the heck are you doing, right? It's a 7 mana 5/6 that restores 6 health. Like, man, this card just trumps Guardian of Kings out of the water. All right. And for the number 1 card, I'm gonna pick Ronin. Ronin is kind of like, once again, when you look at a card that has 7 attack, you have to do the BGH check. Does this actually deal with BGH? And it does, because like well, it basically gives you a Death Rattle. Anything that has a revenge kill on BGH is really strong. The first thing that comes to mind is Dr. Boom, because when you play Dr. Boom and your opponent BGHs, then the boom bots just kill it off, right? So it's not like, it's just a 1-for-1 trade. Not possibly mana trade, because mana, obviously your opponent's gaining 4 mana. But then, you know, you do the revenge trade. And in terms of card advantage, it's basically even, right? Ronin's gonna accomplish the same thing. Now, why 3 Arcane Missiles is actually insane is because it, actually, what's that called? It activates your other stuff, right? It activates Flame Waker for a possible deal 5 damage randomly to enemy minions. It activates Antinitis, where each Arcane Missile actually deal 9 damage. You can actually reduce it with Emperor, you can reduce it with the Girl, or Sorcerer's Apprentice. This card is just too versatile. And I guess 8 mana, you do expect something insane, right? The 8 mana slot is like, it has to do something really, really good. And Ronin gonna be doing really good. Why this is the number 1 card is because it's gonna shape mages to what they are going to be, right? Temple mages are gonna be quite insane. Even freeze mages could consider this card because of Antinitis. Freeze mages obviously needs to be a bit careful because at turn 8, you might just really need to play that secret, or you really just need to, you know, freeze the board. And this actually doesn't really help. But hey, the possibility of this being in freeze mage is definitely quite a very tingly feeling. So yeah, Ronin is possibly the well, in my list, the top card in the set. Now, we also need to go to Arena, because Arena is also quite relevant. It's not a constructed world only. 5 very good cards which I consider auto pick, which means that if they show up on your screen, you better freaking pick it. It's going to be the following. There's going to be a theme besides the first one. The last 4, there's a big theme of the cards. So the first one is going to be Grand Crusader again. Like a 6 mana draw card is just insane, right? And of course, the fact that you can actually draw from any card is actually very relevant. Because if you draft this card, you're drafting a True Silver, you're drafting a Hammer of Wrath, you're drafting an Eldar Peacekeeper, you're drafting a Avenging Wrath, and you're drafting a freaking Tyrion. Like, this is just an auto pick. This is just gonna win you games. I can argue that it might even be better than Azric because it's just a 5/5 body, and once again, 5/5 bodies are very, very relevant. 5 is infinitely better than 4 health, and 4 health is infinitely better than 3 health, and 5 is on the higher spectrum of this. So this is gonna be insane. Okay. Murloc Knight. When you see this card, you definitely want to pick it because your hero power becomes summon 2 hero powers, and that Murloc might just be insane, right? An average Murloc is like, well, an average Murloc is actually like a 2/1 or a 2/2, maybe like something like that. But the fact that it can summon the Charger, the Merc Eye, it can summon itself, and it can summon like a Murloc War Leader and buff this guy up, is just absolutely nuts, right? You still get a 1/1 after you play this in the Paladin deck, which is just, oh my god, what are you doing? This is also quite relevant because in Shaman, because you play what's that called? Witness the power of pure water. Neptulon can actually draw you this card, which is just nuts. So this is gonna be an auto pick. Like when you see this in the arena, you just pick it. Okay, it's a dude summoning machine. Speaking of another dude summoning machine, we have the Thunderblood Valiant. Is an auto pick in the arena. It's going to buff your totems, and there's a lot of situations when you are top decking an arena, right? And when you play this card, it's just gonna win you the game, right? Your opponent cannot deal with this in the top decking thing. You summon a totem that gets 2 attack, and then when you summon another totem again, your previous totem gets 4 attack. You trade it off, and you get another 2 attack minion, and you repeat, and you repeat, and you just storm your opponent out. So this is gonna be really strong. If you draft, it doesn't really matter if you draft any totems, right? If you do not have any flame tongues, or you do not have any mana tides or totem golems, this is just gonna be strong by itself. Insane card in arena. Oh my god, Savage Combatant. You are going to pick this card immediately once you basically change the wording to change your hero power into a Wrath. You are wrathing every single turn. Are you kidding me? Because like your opponents in arena, it's really not too hard to just play a lot of 3 health creatures. There's a lot of 3 health creatures in arena, right? 3/3s galore. Everybody's gonna be playing that. Not only that, you can also have 3 mana, because like just imagine you're drawing a Wrath card every turn. In arena, it's very possible, once again, that you run out of cards. This is basically 2 mana. You make your hero power 2 mana, draw a Wrath, and play it immediately. Wow, you just pick this card immediately, okay? And the top card to pick in arena every single time. Like you see a theme here, right? It's all Inspire. Overrated. It is Floating Watcher for every single class. You are going to pick Floating Watcher. When I play what? Oh, actually, let's put it this way. Why I like Warlock so much is because of Floating Watcher. It's a card that it's just going to steamroll the game out of control. And Cavalry is going to do exactly that. You played this on turn 5 of an empty board. They have to kill it, otherwise you win the game. You play this at turn 7, it's a 6/6. 7 mana 6/6 is a very, very competitive. People think that 7 mana 6/6 is actually very bad. Then why are you playing Stormwind Champion? Why are you playing Trogzor? It's effectively the same thing. This is just nuts. You are picking this immediately when it shows up on your screen. It's a common slot. You expect to see a lot of Cavalry Raiders. Alright. Top 5 overrated cards. This is the last list we're gonna... Oh, actually, there's one more list after this. These cards, people think are gonna be nutballs. Oh my god, and they're gonna steamroll the carpet. No, it's just... They're just regular cards. They might even be garbage tier, but they might be okay. Like, it doesn't matter. They're just overrated, okay? Like, what are you doing with your life? Bash, okay? Why do you guys like Bash so much when you have Fiery War Axe? You also have Alex Strauss's Champion. This is a deal 3 damage, gain 3 armor. But let's move at this another way. This is a 3 mana 3/1 weapon, okay? 3 mana 3/1. You are never going to play that. Never. Ever. Okay, let's do another way. Let's compare this to Dark Bomb, right? Dark Bomb does exactly the same thing. So you are playing a 1 mana card. You adding 1 more mana to gain 3 armor. Like, no, that's just not good. It's not good enough. There's 2 different things that you can compare this with as well. You can compare this to Shield Block. Well, Shield Block is just better in against like, an aggro setting, because you want to draw, you want to mill your deck more, and you want to find more answers like Shield Maiden, like Armor Smith, like weapons. Like Whirlwind, for example. Like, this does not draw you a card. Very, very difficult. And when you want to deal damage, you have Shield Slam and you have Execute. No, don't take this card. Okay. Oh no, Stable Master, what is happening? Orange loves this card for some reason. Which, you might make it work, but man, when you play Hunter, you need to go for face. Why are you trading? Because, like, if you give your beast immune and you're not trading, you're basically doing nothing. It's a 3 mana 4/2 that doesn't do anything. Like, no. You do not want to play this card at all. Even in arena, you don't want to play this card at all, right? If the immune text is so good, then, Bestial Wrath is really good. Minions go face. Spells and weapons go trade. Minions always go face. And this card doesn't say it's going face. You can pay 1 more mana and you can actually buff a beast. When you buff a beast, it's actually more relevant because it goes face and you actually buff stats. This goes face, doesn't buff the stats, and Battlecry does nothing. Beast only as well. Oh my god, no, okay. Oh no. Confessor Paletress. Oh my god, what is happening? When there is going to be a lot of games where you summon a random legendary minion and you are going to be very sad about it. Alright, you're just gonna be really sad. Mayor Domo, for example. Oh no, what is happening? You can also have stuff like, what's that called? The 7 mana Hunter card. Every time a minion takes damage, it dies. What is happening? Well, Laura could chill. The list goes on. Alright, legendaries are strong because they have battle cries, and because this card doesn't summon you a battle cry, it just doesn't work that well. Like, people, when Sneeze first released, people put Sneeze in almost everything, and now it's basically, it's non-existent now because legendaries needs to have a battle cry, right? Sure, you can get Ronin, Death Rattle, that's pretty cool. Sure, you can get Izera. Izera is basically super awesome. But like, most legendaries need the battle cry, and they are understated. Understated meaning that you have Black Knight, right? Black Knight is a 4/5, understated, right? So sure, you can treat this as like, okay, fine, let's forget about the legendary text. Let's pretend that this only summons a minion, okay? Like a 4/5 minion, a 5/5 minion, okay, sure. Then 9 mana, 4/5/4 summon 5/5 does not take the cheesecake. It just does, no, it just doesn't work. This is going to be a, like, if you want to make this card work, you have to play, like, Fencing Coach, which is, like, the 3 mana 2/2, that makes your next hero power free. You are obviously paying Emperor, because you want to make this as cheap as possible. Garrison Commander would be a choice, because you can double your hero power. But you are going to definitely have to make a deck around this card, which makes this a bad card. Or overrated card, I guess. Both Ram Shield. Oh no, oh no. When you first look at this and go like, oh my god, it has Spell Taunt. But then you realize that your opponent can just hit your face. Both takes damage. And both doesn't even do the retaliation damage. Minion trading is so important because when they smack your minion, their minion takes damage and they die as well. Now what happens when you play this? Oh, your opponent just hits your face. And then this is a 6 mana Healing Touch. Oh no. Why are you playing a 6 mana Healing Touch? People were so crazy about this card when the stream first revealed it, but like, this is a tech card against, like, I don't know, Freeze Mage, and Freeze Mage can just, like, you know, kill this with, like, what, Doomsayer and stuff like that. Also kill it with, like, AoE. No, this is just not gonna work out. And even then, it's only one good matchup, right? Against every other class, it's just like, ugh. Bad. 6 mana Healing Touch. Just play Healing Touch. Okay. And the top overrated card. Oh, Totem Golem. Now, I do agree that Totem Golem is pretty good, but it's not up to the insane levels as to push Shamans out of the blue. It's a 3 mana 3/4. Okay, let's just put it that way. Okay. People don't realize that when you play this in turn 2, you have to play the upkeep of the Overload, and you're going to have a turn 2 as well. So effectively, you are changing your turn 3 and turn 2. What is the dream? The dream is like, okay, you can play this against the Zombie Child, they kill it. You can play this against the Knife Juggler, they kill it. Oh wow, that's really good. Now, the problem is that this already exists in the game, right? Preparation already has the acceleration that you're looking for. Innervate already has the acceleration you are looking for. Frankly, you also can compare this to like Lightning Bolt, where Lightning Bolt is like a 1 mana spell, and it overloads for 1 and deals 3 damage. It's kind of exactly the same as Dark Bomb. It's kind of exactly the same as like Frostbolt and any 2 mana spell that deals 3 damage, right? Yeah, it's just that playing this 1 turn earlier doesn't necessarily mean much. It just means that you're playing a glorified Zombie Chow. Sure, in a totem deck, this could actually get a lot more, you know, a lot more buck out of its money or something like that. I'm not really sure, because you can play like the Valiant, you can buff its attack. You can also play like the Totemic Might. Totemic Might is actually, you know, it might be a good card because you're playing so many totems. It's kind of like a the closest thing is like Blade Master Circle, right? Or like Dark Cultist Power Word Shield, something like that. Like, you actually gain control of the board quite well. But at the end of the day, it's just a glorified Zombie Child. It doesn't do anything, like, it doesn't have any other effect. And when you play a 2-mana creature, it has to have so much effects nowadays, right? It either has to have Death Rattle, summon 2/1/1s. It can like throw knives. It reduces your spell. I just think this card is like super overrated. You play this turn 2, you're okay, happy about yourself. I'm not really like super excited about itself. So yeah. Top 5 classes that we predict that are going to be very, very good after TGT is going to be Warlock, because Warlock, even though there's not a lot of TGT cards that they gained, they got like, you know, Tiny Knife of Evil, they got a lot of discard mechanics. Wolf with Fizzle Bang is not really that good. It's still going to be strong just because of the archetypes that they are going to bring. Dark Bargain is going to be found in Zoo, in my opinion, and it's going to make the aggro Zoo more relevant, so it's going to introduce more stuff to it. Obviously, Dark Bargain is not going to be played in Malagos, because why do you want to discard your cards? But yeah, just the sheer power of Warlock is going to be helpful. Druid is actually receiving a lot of love in TGT. We got Living Roots, we got the Darnassus Aspirant, and we also got a lot of different cards in between that is going to be really good. Druid Saber for a more aggressive deck. You can also use Living Roots in the token deck. You know, the Savage Combatant, while I guess you might not play in Constructed too much because, you know, 5/4 is not really competitive with Shredder. You could play in Arena, very, very strong, free Wrath every turn. Druids, it's definitely gonna, you know, the deck lists are gonna change a little bit, and it's gonna be helpful. Oh man, Hunter is still gonna be insane because of just one card. You say that, oh yeah, Face Hunter is not getting a lot of big treatment, right? Oh no, they got the Argent Horse Rider. The 3-mana 2/1 Divine Shield Charge. That is actually enough to push Face Hunter to be still relevant. Now, there are other cards that Hunter received that actually helps with the mid-range matchup. For example, they received the, what's that called? The Bear Trap, yes. Bear Trap is also relevant because now your opponent has to have more guessing stuff. If you're playing Paladin and your opponent is if you play Hunter and your opponent's not hitting your face, for example like a Paladin, then they're not winning. You're just gonna you know, kill them down. So it's actually better than Snake Trap in the sense that your opponent cannot race unless they want to summon a 3/3. So they better have a very good way of dealing with it. Yeah, Smirking is always gonna be relevant. Very, very good. Wow, Mage is getting another archetype possibly, and they are getting Ronin. Ronin is going to be just nuts. But the fact that Kodar Mage might be a thing with, like, you know, Fallen Hero, Maiden of Lake, and Kodar Drake combo. You can also throw in a Nexus Lord Sarad there, like we saw, or Nexus Champion. I'm not really sure. The Sarad card, okay? That every time you use your hero power, you get around a spell from the game. Yeah, it might spawn a new archetype. Who knows? Effigy might be a thing too, and there's just a lot of mage cards that people are going to tinker around, and you know, it's just going to be really, really cool. And of course the last one, of course, it's going to be Warrior. Patron is still going to be viable, and now Dragon Warrior is going to receive love. Oh my god, what are you going to do against Warriors now? You are going to, like, every matchup, you do not know whether it's going to be Patron or Dragon Warrior, because Dragon Warrior is going to be relevant. So then you are, the mulligan already is kind of like a guessing game. Remember when we first started Hearthstone, like earlier on, when you play Warlock, you don't know what to mulligan. You just, people are so confused because basically they do anything, right? They really did anything, and Warrior is going to achieve the same thing. Heck, I just played against a mech warrior, and then, you know, aggro warrior might be a thing. I have no idea, probably not, but the fact that you have two of the very, very strong archetypes is going to be insane. So yes, classes that are not included here are Rogue. Rogue does not actually benefit too much. The only good card, I guess, is like Burgle. Sure, Shadowpan Cavalry is pretty strong, but like there are already a lot of cards that can basically trump it, I guess. And you do need to combo turn 5. Poison Blade is not a card, and I guess the variety of like pirates for the rogues that they got. Not really sure if Pirate Rogue is the main thing, but if they are, then every time new pirates introduce, ship's cannons gets that much better, right? Priest. I'm trying to give Priest love, but Shadow Fiend just sucks. We have two of the worst cards in the set, Spawn of Shadows, and we also have Power Glory. Those are never going to see play at all. And Confessor Paletress is really just kind of cute, but not quite that good. You have to build a deck around it. So basically, Priest just got... Oh, and Convert is obviously bad. So Priest is either going to be Dragon Priest with the Rimrest Agent, right? With the 2-mana, 2/4 taunt if you have a dragon. Or it's going to be with the Flash Heal. So those are the only tools that they received. And I don't think it's going to be that good. What else are we missing? We're missing Shaman. Shaman, I still think the cards are not that good. It's not going to push Shaman over the edge just because they're a very honest class, in my opinion. Overload mechanic is actually one that is actually quite detrimental because you are... Like, playing around Overload is just... Sometimes, even the most skilled players can't really play around it, right? You're overloaded for... You have 4 mana at turn 7, for example. Like, you usually can't utilize the mana efficiently. You just really can't. And it's just like the class mechanic, right? It just Overload just punishes you too much, and it's also budgeted as if it's actually a keyword, right? What's a good example of this? A good example of this would be Lava Burst, right? Because Overload makes the spell cheaper, it deals less damage than the Fireball. So like, yeah, if you look at all the Overload cards, they actually budgeted such that Overload is actually like a positive effect, but it's just like a neutral effect. And because it's so hard to play around Overload, it's like a negative effect. And the last class that we forgot to mention would be Paladin? Yeah, Paladin, I guess. Paladin is actually Paladin might be like number 6. I'm not really sure. Just because Tuskar Joester is such a strong card. Imagine if Tuskar Joester was found in other decks, you know. Oh my god, heal for 7. That's just nuts. They got one of the strongest cards, but they also got like, you know, some cards that I don't think you're gonna ever see play, like Argent Lance. It's just like bad. It's possibly an arena card only. And then Edric is not as people think. People overrate that card as well. I thought I was gonna put it in overrated cards list, but Edric is not really that good. 7 mana 3/7. You might as well just use Equality Consecrate, and yeah. Well, there you go. Good. That was the review. Who knows if that's going to be accurate or not, but that's from what I think. I believe is going to happen, so let's just disable this window capture, and oh man, Hearthstone closed itself. But yeah, thanks for watching, and let's load back Hearthstone.